We've been taught to chase outcomes. Chase the job, chase the title, chase the money. We measure our lives by results. What we've won, what we've built, how others see us. But very few of us stop to ask a deeper question. Why do we pursue these things in the first place? What drives us to get up when we've failed? What pulls us forward when doubt creeps in? The answer isn't in the strategy or even the skill. It starts in something far more foundational, our attitude. You see, attitude is not decoration. It's not simply about being cheerful or confident. Attitude is your internal strategy. It's how you interpret the world around you. It shapes every decision, every conversation, every reaction. When everything around you is uncertain, your attitude becomes the one thing you still get to choose. That's power. The power, real power, is the power to know that the power is the power. Because in a world that constantly shifts, those who win aren't always the most talented or the most educated. They're the ones who've built a mindset that can weather storms. We often think of attitude as something people are born with. She's just naturally positive, or he's got a winning mentality. But that belief is dangerous. It lets us off the hook. The truth is, a winning attitude is not something you inherit. It's something you cultivate. Like any skill, it's built through repetition, through reflection, and through relentless self-awareness. But before we can cultivate it, we have to understand what it really is. Your attitude is not just how you feel, it's how you frame. It's the lens through which you interpret challenge, conflict, or even opportunity. If two people lose a job, one might see it as failure, the other might see it as freedom. The same event, two different responses. The only difference? Attitude. So, where does a winning attitude come from? It begins with why. Why do you show up? Why do you work hard? Why do you want to grow? People with a winning attitude are deeply rooted in purpose. They're not chasing recognition. They're not obsessed with results. They're driven by something within, something bigger, something meaningful. When your why is clear, your how gets sharper. You're not just going through the motions anymore. You're on a mission. That clarity gives you resilience. Because when life punches you in the gut, and it will, it's not your goals that keep you standing, it's your reason. Purpose breathes life into persistence. And let me tell you something we don't say enough. The way you think matters more than you realize. Not just in a philosophical sense, but practically. The stories you tell yourself in moments of difficulty become the reality you live in. If your internal dialogue is full of self-doubt, you will act small. If it's rooted in belief, you will take risks others won't. That's not delusion, it's mindset. And mindset sets the ceiling on your potential. People with a winning attitude don't ignore setbacks. They don't pretend things are perfect. In fact, they often see more clearly than others. But they've made a choice, a deliberate choice, not to let fear define their narrative. They choose curiosity over judgment, growth over pride, ownership over blame. Let me pause here and say this. This kind of attitude doesn't come from motivational quotes or morning affirmations alone. It comes from experience. It comes from deciding again and again to see challenges as opportunities to lead yourself. When you get passed over for a promotion, do you stew in frustration or do you get better? When someone criticizes you, do you take it personally or do you look for what's useful? These micro decisions shape your identity. They wire your brain. They build the emotional muscle of a winner. Think of athletes at the top of their game. Of course, they train their bodies, but the elite, they train their minds even harder. because they know something that applies to all of us. When pressure hits, your default mindset takes over. Not your knowledge, not your skill, your mindset. If your attitude hasn't been built for resilience, all the talent in the world won't matter. If your attitude hasn't been built for resilience, all the talent in the world won't matter. If your attitude hasn't been built for resilience, all the talent in the world won't. But here's the beautiful part. You're not stuck with the attitude you have today. You can build it, you can choose it every single day. But you have to begin with why. Without a clear reason to grow, you'll fall into the comfort of habits. You'll follow what's easy, not what's right. And slowly, without realizing it, you'll start playing not to lose, rather than playing to win. A winning attitude is not arrogance. It's not loud, it's not showy. It's grounded, it's focused, it carries quiet conviction. The kind that says, I know who I am, I know why I'm here, and I'm not leaving without giving my best. That kind of inner posture is magnetic. It influences the way you speak, the way you lead, the way you show up in the world. People follow those who believe in something deeper than the scoreboard. People follow those who stand for something more than success. So let me leave you with this. The world doesn't need more people who are just trying to win. It needs more people who understand why they want to win. People who see attitude not as an accessory, but as the engine of their leadership, their growth, their impact. If you want to cultivate a winning attitude, don't start with tactics. Start with purpose. Start with why. Because when your why is strong enough, the rest takes care of itself. We often get caught up in the pursuit of the big win, the breakthrough moment, the leap forward. It's how we've been conditioned, go big or go home. We admire the overnight success, the viral explosion, the transformation that seems to happen in the blink of an eye. But if we stop and look closely, we realize something far more powerful is at work. Real progress doesn't happen all at once. It's built in the quiet moments, the small choices, the daily disciplines we often overlook. Momentum isn't created in a surge. It's created in a rhythm, a steady cadence of intentional actions that over time compound into something significant. The irony is, the smallest methods, those little decisions we're quick to dismiss, are often the very foundation of a winning attitude. They don't make headlines, but they make all the difference. We tend to look for motivation to strike us like lightning. We wait for inspiration before we move. But the people who consistently grow, the ones who cultivate a truly resilient mindset, don't rely on inspiration to take action. They act and let inspiration catch up. That's the secret. They understand that momentum favors those who move. No matter how small the step, it's the movement that counts. Let's be clear. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. There's a big difference. Perfection says, do it right or not at all. Consistency says, show up, even if it's messy. One of the most overlooked truths in personal growth is that discipline is more powerful than motivation. Because discipline doesn't wait to feel ready. Discipline simply shows up. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up every morning thinking, today I'm going to revolutionize my dental hygiene. You do it because it's routine, because it's part of your identity. Now imagine if your attitude got the same treatment, if every morning you spent even just 5 minutes checking in with yourself, shaping your mindset, reinforcing your purpose. That small habit, repeated over time, would transform how you lead, how you communicate, how you perform under pressure. The problem is we undervalue small things. We think if it's not hard, it's not worth it. But building a strong mindset isn't about heroics. It's about intentional repetition. It's about stacking simple practices that train your brain to respond rather than react. Practices like journaling for 5 minutes to process your thoughts, like taking a walk without your phone just to hear yourself think, like choosing to respond with patience when you're tempted to lash out. These aren't dramatic acts, but they are defining ones. Why do these small methods matter so much? Because every action reinforces a belief. When you choose to act with courage, even in a small moment, you reinforce the idea that you're someone who faces discomfort. When you commit to showing up, even when it's inconvenient, you reinforce the belief that you are dependable. Over time, those beliefs become your identity, and your identity drives your behavior. Small methods also help us build trust with ourselves, and self-trust is the core of confidence. You can't fake confidence for long. If you don't believe your own words, neither will anyone else. But when you've proven to yourself again and again that you will follow through, even in the little things, something shifts. You walk differently. You speak with clarity. You lead with conviction. Not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent. In a culture obsessed with instant gratification, the idea of slow, intentional growth feels almost radical. But that's where the edge is, because while others are chasing quick fixes, you're building something sustainable. While others are overwhelmed by the size of the goal, you're mastering the discipline of progress. And here's what's fascinating. Once you stack enough small wins, momentum begins to take over. Your energy increases, your belief expands, your tolerance for challenge grows. I've seen this play out in teams, in organizations, and individuals. The ones who rise are rarely the loudest or the most charismatic. They are the ones who do the small things with excellence. They are the ones who don't skip the basics. They are the ones who embrace the process not because they love every part of it, but because they trust what it's building in them. This is not about being robotic. It's about being deliberate. There's a difference. A winning attitude doesn't come from grinding mindlessly. It comes from doing small things on purpose. That purpose is what fuels momentum. That purpose is what gives even mundane actions meaning. Let me offer a challenge. Choose one small method, just one. Something you can do daily that aligns with the person you want to become. Maybe it's a morning mindset reset. Maybe it's 3 gratitudes before bed. Maybe it's asking one powerful question in every meeting. Whatever it is, make it yours and commit to it not for a week, but for a season. Long enough to feel the compound effect. Long enough to trust the process. Because here's the truth, people don't rise to the level of their goals, they fall to the level of their systems. And your systems are made up of habits. Your habits reflect your attitude. And your attitude. That's your strategy. So the next time you're tempted to wait for the perfect moment, remember this. Momentum isn't something you wait for. It's something you build with every small action, every small decision, every small method. That's how a winning attitude grows, not in a single leap, but in 1,000 quiet steps. We like to think of ourselves as independent, as if we are entirely self-made. We tell ourselves that our mindset, our drive, our choices are all ours, unaffected by the world around us. But the truth is, we're not as autonomous as we believe. Every one of us is shaped quietly, persistently, by our environment. Not just the physical places we spend time in, but the people, the conversations, the culture we immerse ourselves in. If you want to cultivate a winning attitude, you cannot ignore the context you're cultivating it in. Because your environment doesn't just reflect who you are, it shapes who you become. Look around you. Every voice, every behavior, every standard in your environment is influencing what you believe is possible, what's normal, what's acceptable. If you surround yourself with cynicism long enough, you start to lower your expectations. If you're immersed in apathy, ambition starts to feel naive. On the other hand, when you're in a room where excellence is the standard, where growth is expected, where resilience is admired, you rise, you adapt. Because we're wired to match the energy around us. Not consciously, not dramatically, just enough to fit in. It starts subtly. You hear someone complaining, you join in. Not because you believe it, but because you want to connect. You see someone settle and you think, maybe I'm asking for too much. And little by little, you adjust your beliefs. You lower the bar. You recalibrate what's realistic, not because of logic, but because of influence. The environment wins. That's why the most intentional people don't just protect their time, they protect their space. They're thoughtful about who they let in, what conversations they participate in, and what energy they allow to linger. Because they know your mindset doesn't operate in a vacuum. You could do all the journaling, all the affirmations, all the self-development, but if you go right back into a culture that contradicts your values, it won't stick. Not for long. You cannot grow in soil that kills your roots. You cannot dream in a space that punishes belief. And you cannot build a winning attitude while living in a losing culture. The two are incompatible. It's like trying to train for the Olympics in a room full of people who have already quit. Their energy affects yours. Their fear becomes your ceiling. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. Now, this doesn't mean you abandon everyone who thinks differently. It means you become aware. You become strategic. You stop pretending your environment is neutral and start designing it to support the mindset you're building. If you want to be more courageous, spend time with people who do hard things. If you want to grow your confidence, spend time with people who believe in something bigger than themselves. If you want to lead better, surround yourself with people who ask better questions, not just offer easy answers. Sometimes the change starts small, rearranging your workspace so it reflects who you want to become. Curating your digital space, your feed, your podcasts, your inbox, so you're exposed to ideas that stretch, not shrink you. Setting boundaries with people who drain your energy, not because you don't care about them, but because you care deeply about your purpose. These decisions aren't dramatic, they're deliberate. And over time, they reshape your belief system. Think about any person who's done something extraordinary. Somewhere in their story, there was a moment of risk, of uncertainty, and almost always there was someone else who believed in them just enough to keep them going. One voice, one example, one moment of support. That's the power of environment. It's not just a setting, it's a signal. It tells you what's possible, what's expected, what's safe. If you want to cultivate a winning attitude, you have to become a guardian of your space, and that starts by being honest. What kind of conversations are you having regularly? What kind of energy fills the rooms you walk into? Do you feel pulled forward or pulled down? Encouraged or exhausted? Inspired or indifferent? These are not small questions. They are diagnostic tools. Because environment always tells the truth, even when people don't. Now here's the other side. You're not just a product of your environment. You're also a contributor to it. Which means you don't just consume culture, you create it. Your presence either lifts or limits. Your energy either inspires action or invites passivity. Your attitude doesn't exist in isolation, it influences others. Which means you have the power to shape the environment just as much as it shapes you. So ask yourself, what kind of environment are you building? At work? At home? In your friendships? Are you speaking belief into others? Are you setting standards that challenge people to grow? Are you creating space where it's safe to dream, safe to struggle, safe to lead imperfectly? Because the most powerful environments are not the most comfortable, they're the most intentional. You don't have to be in the perfect place to start cultivating a winning attitude. But you do have to stop pretending that place doesn't matter. You have to be courageous enough to step out of toxic spaces and curious enough to find or build better ones. Spaces that stretch your thinking, that challenge your limits, that celebrate your progress. Because when you shift the environment, you shift the belief. And when belief shifts, behavior follows. And that, more than any motivational quote or inspirational video, is where real transformation begins. We live in a world that's obsessed with comparison. We rank, we rate, we scroll through highlight reels and measure ourselves against everyone else's best day. It's subtle, but constant. And if we're not careful, we start to believe the lie that progress only matters if it's visible to others, that we only win when we're ahead of someone else. But the truth is, a winning attitude isn't built by beating others. It's built by beating who you were yesterday. There's something dangerous that happens when we define success by comparison. We start looking sideways instead of forward. We stop listening to our internal compass and start reacting to the noise around us. We abandon our own standards and start chasing someone else's timeline. But here's the problem. The race you're running is yours. No one else can run it for you. And if you spend all your energy watching other lanes, you lose the clarity, the joy, and the meaning in your own. It's not that ambition is wrong, it's that the metric we use to measure it often is. When you define winning by how much better you are than someone else, you become addicted to performance. Your value becomes conditional. You're only as good as your last achievement. But when you define winning as being better than yesterday, something shifts. You start focusing on growth instead of validation. You stop chasing approval and start cultivating mastery. You don't need a crowd to clap for you. You just need the courage to keep showing up. That kind of mindset creates resilience. Because let's face it, there will always be someone ahead of you. Someone more experienced, more gifted, more accomplished. If your attitude is based on staying ahead of everyone, you'll live in constant anxiety. But if your focus is on becoming just a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more intentional than you were yesterday, then every day becomes an opportunity. Every challenge becomes training. Every failure becomes data, not judgment, just information you can use to grow. And here's the beauty of it. When you stop comparing and start improving, your confidence becomes real. Not loud, not performative, just steady. You don't need to prove anything because you know you're doing the work. You're not just hoping things get better. One decision, one discipline, one day at a time. This mindset also allows you to celebrate others without feeling threatened. You can admire someone's success without questioning your own worth. You can support a peer without seeing them as competition. That's a powerful shift. Because in a comparison-driven culture, support is rare. But in a growth-driven mindset, support is natural. When you're no longer in a race against everyone else, collaboration becomes a strength, not a risk. There's a story I heard once about a young athlete who was training with an older mentor. Every day, the young athlete would ask, "Did I beat him today?" referring to a rival. And every day, the mentor would answer, "That's the wrong question. The only person you should aim to beat is who you were yesterday." At first, the young athlete didn't understand, but over time, he began to see it. The goal wasn't domination, it was evolution. The focus wasn't on outperforming others, it was on outgrowing limitations. That lesson applies far beyond sports, in leadership, in business, in relationships. The most effective people I've met, the ones who truly lead with impact, aren't obsessed with looking the best in the room. They're obsessed with becoming the best version of themselves. And that makes them magnetic, because there's something deeply human about someone who's not trying to win at your expense, but win alongside you. But let's be honest, it's not always easy. It's hard to stay focused on your own path when the world is constantly showing you everyone else's. It takes discipline to track your own progress, to measure your growth by your values, not someone else's milestones. It takes humility to admit where you fell short yesterday, and courage to try again today. It also takes grace. Grace for yourself when progress feels slow, grace to celebrate small wins, grace to see effort as valuable even when the outcome isn't perfect, because that's what creates sustainability. You can't build a winning attitude on burnout. You build it on intention, on showing up, doing the work, and trusting that growth compounds over time. I've seen teams that function like families, not because they agree on everything, but because they compete with yesterday, not with each other. I've seen individuals rise through quiet persistence, not flashy performance. The difference? They've made peace with progress over perfection. They've stopped chasing approval and started building identity. And that's what this is really about. Identity. Who are you becoming? What kind of person are you when no one is watching? Are you growing in discipline, in integrity, in clarity? Because in the end, that's what builds trust. That's what earns respect. Not how loudly you talk about winning, but how intentionally you grow. So maybe today is not about being faster than someone else. Maybe today is about being more focused than you were yesterday. Maybe it's not about doing more, but doing what matters most with more purpose. Maybe the real win is knowing you stayed aligned with your values, your vision, your voice. That kind of attitude doesn't just prepare you to succeed, it prepares you to lead. Because people follow example more than words. And when they see someone growing with humility, pursuing progress without ego, they're inspired to do the same. You become a catalyst, not because you're the best, but because you're getting better. Consistently, authentically, purposefully. So let others chase comparisons. Let others play status games. You have a different assignment. Your job is not to be the best in the world. Your job is to be the best for the world. And that begins by being better than you were yesterday. We all want to feel confident. We want to walk into rooms with presence, speak with conviction, lead with clarity. Confidence is something we admire, even envy. But most of us are waiting for it to appear before we act. We think, when I feel ready, I'll speak up. When I feel confident, I'll take the leap. When I believe in myself fully, I'll go for it. And that's where we get it backward. Because confidence doesn't come before action, it comes from action. This is one of the most common misunderstandings in personal growth. We assume confidence is a prerequisite, but it's actually a result. The truth is, if you wait until you feel confident to act, you'll never move. Because the fear doesn't go away on its own. It's only by stepping into the unknown, by doing the hard thing, even when we're unsure, that we build the confidence we're craving. Action is what proves to your brain that you're capable, not theory, not positive thinking alone, not rehearsing in your head 1,000 times. Real confidence comes from evidence. And evidence only comes from experience. Even if that experience is messy, even if it doesn't go perfectly, what matters is that you showed up, that you did the thing you were afraid of, and that now your brain has proof. You can do hard things. That's the great irony. The moments we feel the least ready are often the exact moments we need to act. Because the fear we feel isn't always a sign to stop. It's a signal that we're on the edge of growth. And that edge is uncomfortable, but it's also where transformation lives. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act in the presence of it. That's what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. Not talent, not intelligence, just a decision to move forward when it would be easier to wait. And this isn't just about the big, life-changing decisions. It's about the small ones too. Confidence is built in micro moments. Speaking up in a meeting, asking the hard question, saying, I don't know, and being okay with it. Every time you choose action, you train yourself to trust yourself. That's the key. Confidence isn't loud. It's quiet self-trust. And the more you act, the more trust you build. But here's the tension. Action without reflection doesn't lead to growth. You can't just do the thing and move on. You have to extract the lesson. That's where confidence deepens. When you pause and say, what did I learn? What would I do differently? What part of that did I handle well? You're not just accumulating experiences, you're transforming them into wisdom. And that wisdom becomes part of your identity. Now, some people confuse confidence with bravado. They think being confident means being certain or never showing doubt. But real confidence is grounded. It's not a mask. It's not about pretending to have it all together. It's about being secure enough to admit what you don't know while still taking the next step. It's about showing up fully human and moving anyway. This distinction matters because too many people are waiting for perfect certainty before they move. And in doing so, they miss opportunities, they delay growth, they trade momentum for the illusion of safety. But there is no perfect moment. There is no version of you that will one day be immune to doubt. The goal is not to eliminate fear, it's to shrink the power it has over you. Now, some people confuse confidence with bravado. They think being confident means being certain or never showing doubt. But real confidence is grounded. It's not a mask. It's not about pretending to have it all together. It's about being secure enough to admit what you don't know while still taking the next step. It's about showing up fully human and moving anyway. This distinction matters because too many people are waiting for perfect certainty before they move. And in doing so, they miss opportunities. They delay growth. They trade momentum for the illusion of safety. But there is no perfect moment. There is no version of you that will one day be immune to doubt. The goal is not to eliminate fear. It's to shrink the power it has over you. The antidote to fear is not reassurance, it's movement. And the beauty of action is that it creates a feedback loop. You take the risk, you learn something, you adjust, you grow, and each time your internal belief system gets stronger. That belief doesn't come from books or pep talks, it comes from experience. You've lived it, you've felt it, and now you carry it. The best leaders I know aren't fearless. They've just developed a pattern of action that builds their confidence muscle. They step in, they try, they fail sometimes, but they always move. And that movement becomes their advantage. Because while others hesitate, they gain ground. It's easy to look at someone who exudes confidence and assume they were born with it. But when you dig into their story, you find something else entirely. You find rejection, mistakes, moments where they doubted themselves deeply. What you don't find is waiting. What you find is action, again and again, especially when it was hard. This is good news, because it means confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. It's not a personality trait, it's a practice. And the practice begins now, not later. You don't need to feel ready, you just need to be willing. So the question isn't, do I feel confident enough to act? The question is, am I willing to act my way into confidence? That one shift changes everything because it puts the power back in your hands. You're no longer a passive observer waiting to feel right. You're an active participant shaping your own belief system. You can start small. That conversation you've been avoiding, have it. That idea you've been sitting on, share it. That risk you've been analyzing from every angle, take it. Not recklessly, not impulsively, but decisively, intentionally. Because the only way to know what you're capable of is to do what you haven't done yet. And when you do, something incredible happens. You stop waiting for the world to give you permission. You stop outsourcing your sense of worth. You stop asking, am I good enough? And start declaring, I'm getting stronger. Because now, your confidence isn't based on how others see you. It's rooted in what you've proven to yourself. That's the real win. Not perfection, not applause, but internal certainty built not on image, but on action.